Welcome back to Apex This Podcast, a chronicle of my journey in running my publishing and print. This will be a behind the scenes look at what I'm doing to make that happen. I'll share tips and best practices that I learned along the way, tips that you can use to start your very own indie publishing journey and share your voice with the world. Coming up, Q1 2021. And we are back. Did you miss me? It's been quite a while. The months have been just flying by. And every time I get ready to sit down to record, something else comes up. Never fret. We are always here. You'll at least get 2 per year if I can't keep up. But there's many things to share with you in this particular update. So let's get to it. While we are in the midst of Q2 2021, I thought it would be pretty good to get an update out about Q1 2021, comprising of January, February, and March. As always, coming off the holiday is a bit of trouble because it's a slow down period. I naturally go into productivity hibernation, if you can call it that, and it takes a little bit of time to get started and going with projects at the beginning of the new year. But I did. And one of the main projects that I was working on was mixtape, to get the final production work completed for that and get that out the door. In January, we saw the completion or recording of the mixtape audiobook. I wanted to release an audiobook version of that, as the proofreading and everything else for the poetry collection was already done. So the month of January saw me start into that, while also working on revisions for forthcoming short story publication. Then things came to a crash, or let's say deep freeze, within Austin, Texas for the month of February, as working on the audiobook and for mixtape and the mixtape cover design. We've kind of lost power here. I'm sure you've heard about that. It's many months away from that, but the effects are still being felt here by many in Austin. And I was one of those, freezing to death and losing water later that week. So everything kind of came to a halt. And the next several weeks was trying to get back going, busy with the daytime career and starting back on everything else. Maintenance crews and everything, checking to make sure that nothing was broken, etc., etc. So February was kind of a lost month for all activity, and it definitely put me behind. But we resumed in March and came to the finish line with a strong performance, if I must say so myself. The primary focus for March was to work on the mixtape audiobook and to publish the poetry collection, the first publishing item by Apex This, the first self-publishing item for the author, myself. And so that rounded out the month. But due to the forthcoming deadline, in which the mixtape poetry collection was, if you've been listening, was actually supposed to be published around this time in 2020. And I did not want to push the date any longer. And with publishing, the great thing is that you can split up the formats or the delivery into its own release dates. So I decided to shelve the audiobook, even though I have recorded, let's say 90% of it. The other 10% is me going back to re-record certain lines. But I decided to put that on hold and focus on the publishing process of getting the cover, final formatting, and everything else for the ebook version to publish on Amazon Kindle. with this release, because it was coming upon the deadline, we also decided that we are going to do exclusive publishing, if you will, and publish it only on Amazon Kindle and not going, quote unquote, what they call wide, which means publishing it on all other publishing platforms, such as Kobo, Apple eBooks, and everything else that you can name. So we finished out the month of March, the first quarter of 2021, by actually hitting a goal and completing that, and that is publishing Mixtape Volume 1, a poetry collection. It's available on Amazon for 99 cents. And that's it. That was pretty much the beginning of the month. Were not much for waiting so long to record a monthly update. It's been very hectic, and just kind of give you a preview for Q2. We're already halfway through it. There's not going to be much of a change there, as well as we're tightening up and focusing on those particular publishing projects to try to have something out quarterly. Currently, I'm working on the next publishing project, which I hope to have released in June 2021, which again will finish out Q2 of 2021 before we hop back into the third quarter, in which I'm hoping to publish Volume 2 of Mixtape. But we'll see. You never know how things are going to go. Outside of the publishing aspect, which is super exciting to actually be within the independent self-publishing space now, is that the founder and the CEO, the editor, the writer, etc., the marketing chief, etc., all of the above, aka me, is currently undergoing copy editing certificate. It's a year-long process and diving into the technical rules of grammar, what you can and can't do, learning the rules so that we can break them. And that may be something that we expand to. Apex This may offer editing in that particular respect for other writers. We'll see how that goes, but that's also consuming a lot of time and going through the courses, the work, the training, et cetera, et cetera. So that just kind of puts into perspective that some of the future projects may get delayed due to the time needed to write them and record. But we'll see how that goes in the very next update, which should be next month. It will be next month in June, to give you a June monthly update and hopefully another announcement of a new publication from Apex This. So with that, we'll round out the episode. You know where to follow Apex This on Instagram and Twitter at Apex This. You can get everything in the show notes, including a link to our first release on Amazon Kindle. Again, that's Mixtape Volume 1, a poetry collection. You'll find a link to that in the show notes below. If you want to follow me, Mark, individually, you can follow me on Twitter and Instagram at AskMarkIO, and you can follow the personal blog at AskMark.io. All right, until next time.